teasing commercials.
Never stops.
Well, Maniac, I always want to ask Zach that.
By the way, man, we're live.
We are? Why don't... Oh, my buttons are covering the timer.
Morning, everybody. So, yeah, it's hilarious because I'm literally like, oh, you got a minute left, 30 seconds left, 10 seconds. Oh, we're live.
Hey, we are at least consistent.
That's right.
I guarantee you next time I'm going to get it right, because I actually noticed now that we have a little button that shows that we're on air, but that button is so small up in the very tip corner there.
Oh, yeah, in the center? Yeah.
I now see that button. I see it.
Oh, don't worry, it's our normal thing, so cool.
I'm not
Well,
ready.
welcome. This is our co-op chat. This is our live chat, talking about various board game topics, new topic each week, generally cooperative focused. And yeah, well, we have a lot of fun. We got a lot of people here. So I see Ryan here. Hey Ryan, Wise Poet, morning. Snow's here. Hey Mike. Hey G Golly, nice to see you here.
Everybody's
hey Lane.
here. It's a party.
Love soft start, yes. Always a soft start, Bairnt.
Party time, excellent.
Oh boy.
Party on, Wayne.
Burn on Darth.
There we go. Okay, sorry, I had to
Love
get the.
Hey, I never saw Ghost Rider.
That's gonna be like one of the most infamous lines I have ever heard in my life.
It will be. It will be, and it is.
Oh man, I love that so
Yeah,
much.
no.
I had never, I've been one of those people that has never really spit water across the table. I almost did it when he said that.
All right, so what are we talking about today?
Okay, we're gonna talk about
not worthy.
second editions.
Oh, we got okay. Sorry, we're talking about something.
Yep, second editions of board games, our new edition. So, what do we mean by this? So, oftentimes there's games come out, and then maybe like a year later, or maybe longer than that too. They come out with new rules, new component, new something. Sometimes with upgrade pack, sometimes not, or they come out with a whole new printing, new version of the game with second or third or fourth editions. So we're talking about the good, the bad, the ugly with doing this. So, because I know right now there are some games coming up to Kickstarter pretty soon. Oh, sorry, crowdfunding pretty soon that a lot of people are referring to as new editions. So we'll talk about all that fun stuff.
Okay,
All right,
dig in.
let's dive into it.
We have to call it game crowdfunding now, because there are two like major platforms as opposed to it always just being one for so long.
Yep, competition's good though. So,
Yep,
for sure.
I compete with you guys all the time.
I mean, you beat me by like a half a second, Barry.
Did I? Hey, look at that! Oh yeah!
I was so gonna say that.
Oh yeah! Rip into a Slim Jim.
All right,
Let's kick it off, Steve.
Okay, let's jump into it. We got a bunch of game exams to talk through, and I'm sure on the chat you guys have a lot more to bring up. We're watching live chat, so contribute. It'd be awesome. Some editions have little in common, like Arkham 2nd and 3rd edition.
We're gonna get there.
Yep, that was definitely prime for us to chat about. Absolutely. All right, let's talk about. I think this one might be a good one to start with. Yeah, 1.5 editions. We'll talk about that as well, Mike, for sure. Zombicide 2nd edition. I think this is a good one to talk about because there is a Zombicide and Zombicide 2nd edition, and then there's a ton of other Zombicides as well.
And then there's Zombicide Universe.
Exactly. Zombicide Black Plague, Green Horde, Invader,
Invaders.
the Wild West one. I can't remember all of them. There's a ton of them.
This is Marvel Zombies.
Marvel Zombies,
I
exactly.
saw the giant Galactus at my local game store the other day. They had like 6 of them for sale.
Whoa.
Someone was walking around with that thing at Gen Con.
That thing's out of control, dude. I looked at it. It's out of control.
That thing is crazy. Yeah, absolutely.
And he was walking around with that with like the person was walking around with that with like the greatest pride. It's like that's
It's like
gotta be
carrying
heavy.
a toddler.
That's like it's gotta be heavy.
It's massive.
Anyway, sorry.
No, I want to bring up with this one because I think this is a good example of what we mean by a second edition, right? Because like I could see the argument from that Zombicide, Black Plague, which was the second one that came out, the fantasy one, is a second edition, quote unquote, right? because it's like the same system with tweaks to it and a new setting. But I personally would not
There's a
consider it a
difference.
second edition.
Right.
And I think this kind of maybe is a little bit of a confirmation of that.
Yeah. The second edition was a completely retheme. So a retheme to me is not a second edition.
Right.
If it's the same game but they've done some tweaks or corrections or made things that they felt the mechanics were shored up, which is what they did with this second edition. Like, for instance, shooting into a space that has allies in it. That's a good fix, right? So I think that this is the second edition of the original Zombicide.
That's correct. So let's just help lay the groundwork of what we mean by the second edition stuff here. Zombicides are the same game. Yeah.
Oh boy.
There we go. So
it's all Marvel United is the same.
Yeah, all the characters are the same. Just buy one pack, you're good to go, right?
All characters are the same.
Exactly.
Got moves and wilds in them, you're good.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Zombicides real quick since we're on it.
So people who are new to this entire side joke, we're not serious.
Oh yeah, So the Zombicide one, I think, was a really, really good approach from Simon on this one, because the Zombicide is prime real estate for house rules. There's a ton of people out there that play different ways, and the rule that Derrick mentioned was one of those that a lot of people house ruled. So the original rule was, if you shot into a space with a survivor, aka player character, or zombies, you hit the player character first instead of the zombies.
What?
Yep. That's the correct response.
Well, I'm glad I didn't play that game. I'd have shot so many friends.
So what happened pretty quickly, actually, is the community says, well, this is dumb. I don't like this. Let's make it so that if I miss, then I hit the survivors, right? The player characters. And so second edition made that true. Now it's actually in the rulebook that way. So I think that's the right approach, honestly, when the community is telling you something different. Now, I think this is also leading into the problem with second editions is, if that was the response by the community at large, why wasn't this not discovered in playtesting, right? And so that's the big question we're going to be coming back to a lot in this discussion.
Well, for this particular game, I would just assume, because that's what I do, is that's being an older game like this. I don't know how much playtest investment was done for games at that time.
Yes.
Versus like nowadays. You kind of, that's just something you got. This was made in 1932 or something, so I'm sure there wasn't a lot of playtesting done at that time. So.
Don't quote us on that.
You reach for a date. You just reach for a date.
Numbers, man, they come to my head. I say them 437.
This was created back in 1649.
1649. Back when I had hair on my head.
Oh, that's been quoted.
Right. So that's just I just feel that that's probably kind of what happened with that game. So then now that all those iterations have come out, and on top of that, didn't they kind of fix some of the? They also had all the new, because of course as they evolved through the Zombicides, they actually implemented new aesthetic things as well. Like the player boards changed, a lot of the stuff changed as it went. So when you're able to put out a second edition, you're able to put out hey, this is all the stuff we've done up to this point, plus we're going to make this the new way we're going to do all our Zombicide games going forward. So it's almost like when Magic puts out a new core set. It's like, here we're resetting it. We're putting a core set out, and then here's our next evolution of the game, and then we're going to put out a core set. It's been pretty much putting all the rest of it behind you.
Yeah, we can see some of this is an interesting part of a second edition as well.
Yeah, you can see some of the experience updates they did too, where the original one has unique colors for the player characters, but and Simon probably didn't expect going into the first time that they're gonna have a bajillion different characters out there, player characters. It's insane how many characters you can play in this game, and so now what they've been doing is making all the player characters the same color, and then giving rings around them, so you can it's easier to see on the table, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But yes, I agree with you, Bairnt. I think back in the day when this came out, it probably was not as rigorously playtested as games are now. Because that very much is true when I talk to designers and publishers about playtesting and how much they do, and they do a lot now. Now, of course, there's exceptions, but generally there's a lot of playtesting going on, which is great.
Yeah, it's no longer the commonplace to not playtest your game before releasing.
Event Horizon. Wait, what?
What's the next game?
All right. Since it was mentioned, and this is coming up next week, Tuesday, actually, let's transition to a little game that I think we all know. Where is it?
Is it Myth?
No.
Does Myth have a second
Knights of
edition?
Vanguard.
Myth does have a second edition, I think.
Oh, exactly. So that's what I want to talk about. Is this going to be a second edition, right? A lot of people are talking that it is, and I would argue it is not. I can see the argument, though.
I don't see it being a second edition because a lot of the components are remaining the same.
Some rules have changed, and they've added.
They're being added. Stuff. They're not being changed.
I thought Eric had one.
I guess maybe the death rule, right? So he's adding a new. Well, the death rule is still in there, but it's now being changed
more
for
forgiving.
one difficulty level. So
it's more forgiving.
Yeah, but it's still a shift, right? So I guess it's a second printing, which is a reprinting of the first edition, but with updated rules. Then like it's
Kingdom Death is on 1.6. I mean, they've done I think 3, and the reason they did theirs was to because I think games like this, when it comes to doing reprints, it's because their playtesting was fantastic. They probably did tons of playtesting. Everything's wonderful. The game's ready to ship. They ship it out there. You play it. It's fantastic, which it is. I'm talking about Isofarian. I'm talking about Kingdom Death. I'm talking about all these games. They're fantastic games. Love them. But as it hits the hands of the community is seeing some things that are not things that they're already starting to maybe house rule a couple things. And so kind of since this game did so well and they want to put out another print run of it, not only they're not just going to dump it like Gloomhaven did. Gloomhaven just kind of made a new reprint and just added a few things to it, right? They're listening to the community and bringing in rules and things to alleviate some of the concerns that a lot of the community had. That I wouldn't say, I mean, basically you could play or not play with them. It's up to you. I mean, that really is, when it comes to it, your game. But I think it was this way. The community had rules in place to be able to play with some of the things they were hoping that would have been in the game. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I think so. There's so much in here. If new rules are compatible with the old physical components, I'm fine with it, right? Which is that's a good summary of approaching it, and that's true here because it's nothing's really changing other than that one death rule to make it a little more forgiving, and additional rules that you can play with. And I've been playing with the additional rules already, without having purchased anything.
Yeah, I know a few people have said that they've done the death rule of you don't lose all your money, because they were like, that's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I like the one where you can choose to not have an encounter if you don't want to.
Yeah, that's one that Robert mentioned here as well.
Especially when you're on a quest, because I know a lot of people didn't. Some people had some issues with not. It always seems like you're fighting something, and so they implemented this rule to help alleviate that, and that's fantastic. I think it's great. I kill everything, but I always have a focus of what I'm trying to do, and so it's like for this time I sit down, I'm going to try to do this, and so I get to where I'm supposed to start or do something, and then the other place kind of close to it, I'm full health. I'm like, all I want to do is get to this place so that I don't want to get beat down before I get there. So being able to maybe skip a couple encounters before I get there can really help out.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep. Yeah. So this one gets in that gray area. Is it a second edition? Not, and I tend to lead towards not, because there's The only thing that's changing are the rules or additional rules that already matter. Now, with the crowdfunding campaign coming up, there's going to be a lot of new stuff. So there's new content, and that could be considered more of an expansion, honestly.
An expansion. Yeah, that falls into the expansion category.
That's right. I'd put it too.
Yep.
And from what I understand, when this goes to GameFound, previous backers are going to be able to kind of take advantage of the upgrade pack to the 1.5, and they get that free, don't they?
I don't think
so.
I don't think so. I think there's a charge for the upgrade pack.
Is there?
Yep.
Okay.
So how it's being approached is anything that's part of the first edition that's changing. So there's like some errata cards.
Right.
And I think the books themselves are being printed differently. Well, Derrick will like this one. Like the enemy index can be separated from the town.
Enemy index, I think it's supposed to be just. I think he's planning to make them just on big cards, so like you just have a card for it or something, and depending on what chapter you're on.
I'm not sure. Maybe
it's the spiral bound book.
Yeah, it's the spiral. He's just separating out the books a bit.
Okay.
So cool. Not a huge deal, but like those type of changes are all free. He's actually eating the cost of that one.
Okay.
Of all that reprinting.
And then
the new stuff is what he's charging for, which is like new cards, stuff he didn't actually have in the first one.
Cool, cool. Number one Horns fan says Oathsworn did something similar to Ice and Fairy Guard, correct? Where they did the second printing.
Yes.
Did they? I can't remember.
Yeah, they did a second printing, and they sold an upgrade pack for that.
Yeah.
So it was a true second printing. There was the only thing that was different was there was an upgrade pack.
Yeah. And you could get some cool looking dice.
Those were in the first one too, right? Oh no, you're right. They added some extra dice.
I did not get the metal dice. I should have got more tokens.
Yeah. So yes,
I poured water all over my tokens.
Yes,
that's the next one you got.
So let's run through some other examples. I want to jump to one that I think one I want to highlight
that is famous for second editions.
Yeah. So let me talk about Defenders of the Realm.
This one. Okay.
What's this game?
Defenders of the Realm.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Steve. I'll sit back here.
So this one's interesting because I love Defenders of the Realm. It's very old. It's dated. It has its warts for sure, but I enjoy it. There's a new version coming out. It's not out yet. Defenders of the Realm: Legends Retold. And is this a new edition? I would say yes, because it's in the same mindset, similar characters, but it plays completely differently. Like there's so many changes to this one, and I would say you could own the previous one and the new one. It's that different. So that this is where I want to highlight this as one of the examples, because we always talk about second editions, and oftentimes there is this mindset of, well, now that my game I bought, because I bought the first edition, now this new one came out, my first edition is no longer good. I don't want to play it anymore. It's not up to date, right? Or a lot of different reasons why people now look down upon the first edition. But sometimes when you have enough change like that, it's a completely different game in a sense. And I think probably the other one that we can probably talk about, because we had this one Prime that has a lot of different versions, Arkham Horror, right?
Yes.
Arkham Horror 2nd edition and 3rd edition are very different.
Yep.
100%.
So, and
I've only played 3rd edition.
Same.
And I've not played 2nd, so.
Well, I know that 3rd edition, they created 3rd edition to be a blend between Eldritch Horror and Arkham Horror LCG, which they wanted to pull those two together to make, and that is what 3rd edition is, because it's not cards on the table, but it's also not globe trotting,
right?
But it's city trotting. So it's kind of like Eldritch zoomed down to Arkham. But you're still doing the same things, shutting down gates, killing monsters. Do
you want to know what they took from Eldritch Horror? The giant stack of cards that you have to go through to find the one card. Like, find the love note to Robert. Okay. Love note to Robert, found it. That's always my
So
beef with that Eldritch Horror. I'm like, oh, I gotta go find what?
I love me some Eldritch Horror. Matter of fact, I just got in my new bling for Eldritch Horror.
I
Ooh.
don't get me wrong, love Eldritch Horror, think it's
But
fantastic.
I
Don't
get the
like it
frustration.
for the
Yeah.
oh, I need you to find Saskatchewan card.
Saskatchewan card.
But
Yeah.
yes, I know that there's some diehard second edition fans out there of Arkham Horror, and they love it. Versus people that are okay with third edition. There's even people that love the first edition. So I mean, and each edition I think is different enough that you could leave in your collection and enjoy.
Yeah.
It has the same theme,
Yeah.
but I think the editions have enough difference, which so they are true new editions.
So this then further defines the second edition, third edition thing. It's where same name, same theme, different mechanics. ...
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I think that
Snow has an interesting comment here. So they should have named it Eldram Horror or something different, which is an interesting point, right? Like, why call it Arkham Horror Third Edition if it's so different?
If it's a different game.
It is. And, like, are you setting up expectations to fail? Because I like Arkham Horror Second Edition. I have these expectations because I'm a fan of it. I'm going to buy Arkham Horror Third Edition with these expectations already set. Oh, wait, this is a totally different game. Now the game's not meeting my expectations, despite the fact that it may still be a good game, a game you like. But the problem is you had these expectations going into it that are no longer true. Right?
Well, I think they called it Arkham Horror because of the theme. I mean, it occurs in
yes,
Kingsport, Innsmouth, and Arkham.
Yes.
So it's the Lovecraftian theme of an Arkham Horror. But yeah, should it have been third edition? No, it probably should have been called like what they did with Arkham Horror Final Hour.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
They probably should have said Arkham Horror blah.
Yeah, Mike says your expectations being less than their profit margins. That's why. Like, yeah, probably. That's probably true, Mike.
when Mike drops truth bombs.
But yeah, it's interesting when you approach things like that, right? And you had these expectations going in, and that's something to consider, right? Is that going to mislead some of your user consumer base? I don't know, not sure. So
yeah, but it could. Yeah, I mean, it's there is truth in what Mike said. It's they dropped it because if they slap the name on it, people will buy it.
Exactly. Well, same thing with like the Zombicide, right? Like. Yeah. They make so many of them because, slap that name on it. People who like the Zombicide formula are going to enjoy it.
Pick it up. Yep.
Or those people have really bad taste. When they see Marvel United, they just gobble that up, right? Just kidding. No, we love Marvel United here. I'm joking here.
People.
Well, the next thing we're talking about is Descent, which we were talking about a little bit beforehand.
Yeah,
as well.
let's switch to that one. I got
Descent,
that one primed as well.
Yeah,
this is Kanji's bag.
I never played first edition. I've only played second edition, and to me, it's one of my favorites. This company is so known for second editions. This is Fantasy Flight as well, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, Fantasy Flight is like
Fantasy second edition.
Yeah, Fantasy Flight second edition. Whenever you say Fantasy Flight, just slap a second edition on there. But this one, I did not get into this because I got into the hobby later on. I never knew about this, didn't play this. And then I picked up the core box and played it. And it was fun. It had, to me, the character playthroughs. I don't know the distinction between the first, but the second edition to me had a lot more sandboxy adventure. The only problem with it is the timer. I hated the timer because I played solo. I had to use the app. I didn't mind the app, but it was just more. I just didn't like that. Okay, well, bad guy's gonna get away if you don't do anything, but you've been rolling terrible dice for 10 rounds, so game over. Like I didn't like
terrible dice. Come on.
So I didn't like that timer, but everything else was good. To me, this had was done by the old school crew, right? The Valance,
Sadler's, Wilson. Yep.
Wilson, yeah. So this world was fantastic when they were all building it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this was a fun one for sure. Now they have the new one, right? Which Wait. Tell me how you really feel.
Sorry. I'll let y'all talk about it.
I've not played it,
Mike's
so
playthrough of the new one, the new expansion they put out for it, and I kind of felt the same way he did as he was playing through it. It's like, oh, I'm doing so good. Wait, why is it what? And then like all the he was even saying he got to like round or turn like 8 or 9 or something. He's like, oh, okay, this isn't the end. Well, you know what? We're gonna stop the playthrough here. There's a whole other part of this. No, we're done. We're done. I'll tell you what I think. He goes.
I don't
feel that way. I think it, the new one, I think just stays. I think it overstays its welcome.
I don't know what happened between second edition and this new one. To me, I think second edition had a huge following.
Mhm.
I don't know what happened. Like I know that there are people out there who once again like what Mike was saying, you know, Fantasy Flight's profit margin probably soared by slapping Descent on it.
yes.
And they probably loved the game and said, "Hey, we played this through 30 times and enjoy it." For me, that's that the new one just.
Well, that's that's what Robert mentioned here. Like, is Legends of the Dark the third edition, right? And I don't know, right? If they would not have put the word Descent on that box, just called
Would
Legends
it have
of the
been the
Dark,
same? Yeah.
would
it have
that
been
set your expectations that this is not Descent at all? Which it kind of isn't.
And remember our rules for that stuff, right? It's the same theme, same world, same everything, but different mechanics, right? That's what the second edition was.
New edition.
Yeah.
Because it is the same world,
Same theme.
same theme. You're an adventuring group going around doing stuff, completing quests.
So yeah, it would be third edition then.
Which they were the people kept saying it was be a Descent third edition, but they actually called it something different. But it's still technically kind of a third edition. That's a step in the wrong direction, is what it was. I think part of the fun was I think, and okay, now it's your turn. Roll some dice, see what happens. Oh no, wait, die. Roll a die. See what happens. Wait, I don't get to roll lots of dice that are fun in dungeon crawlers. No, you get to roll one die, and then you have to place a bunch of tokens all over your cards and maybe flip them a few times, and then you can see what happens. Oh, and then to find out how you did, you're just going to go to an app and hit a button, and then it's just going to fly up the numbers, and things are going to happen, and you're going to be like,
Yeah.
oh, look at all the stuff that happened.
That's interesting that you put it that way, because I feel like the step in the wrong direction for me happened after Descent Journeys in the Dark. Like, it was, okay, sweet, it's going well, and then they released Imperial Assault. And I was like, oh no, why don't I like this game?
I'll tell you why I don't like this game. Because you do your turn, and then it takes 45 minutes to move one guy. It takes 45 minutes to move one enemy, and then even after you move that enemy, you're not actually sure if you did it right every time.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're on second editions. So we're going to change the title of this to second edition games that we back.
Rant. But go ahead, Steve. What's the next one?
Sorry, Steve.
No worries. I got distracted because we were having some hiccup in the stream, and I guess it was very apparent on my facial expression what I was doing. So Mike saw that. So sorry, guys. I'll try to see if we can figure out what's going on.
Maybe they didn't hear us. Maybe Fantasy Flight decided to cut our stream.
They reached out to YouTube. Shut them down.
Shut them down. That's right.
You got the power. We pay you. Shut them down. The Fly By Night group was about to kill our sales. Shut them down.
All right.
Okay, so on to the next one.
Okay, let's talk about another one coming up real soon here. This is coming out in October, Stars of Ikarios, and this one is being advertised as 1.5, right?
Yep.
And so this one is they're reworking the galaxy exploration, so now it's like a book, kind of like Sleeping Gods.
Yes.
Oh, so it's not layout card 13 and 14 and surrounding. It's a book now.
It's a book now. Yep.
And I think they're changing the planet stuff too, aren't they?
I can't recall. I'm a little confused. I don't remember on that one. I have to look. So, but they are rebalancing.
What they do is they said they're making the planet exploration more. I'm going to say the word, and it's going to be wrong. Palatable. Again, it's one of those things where Derrick had an issue with second edition's timer. I think some people had an issue with the timer for the planet stuff because they wanted to try to explore some of the planet, but they were on such a rigorous timer that they kind of scaled that back a little bit. And again, when you go to these 1.5s, a lot of this you don't have to use. I think some of the stuff they're bringing in, they're just bringing in because it's a quality of life that a lot of the community was kind of looking for when they were going to make a second printing of the game.
Yeah.
Am I right, Steve, or am I absolutely wrong?
No,
He's looking.
I don't know. I
confused
don't know
again.
the reason, the details behind that, so necessarily, but
It's like he was doing something else, and I just asked him a question.
yeah, sorry, he's looking at the stats again. Sorry.
Truth, and the truth shall set you free.
So for me, Stars of Ikarios, the ship combat, in my opinion, is amazing. It's the best space-based ship combat game that I have played. I like that you use abilities on cards and the dice tell you, how you're going to turn and how you're going to shoot and where you need to face. I think that's some really great strategy on it. The game fell flat for me with the planetary exploration. I didn't mind the ship moving through the big, our big carrier moving through stuff, but it was secondary. It's like, oh, okay, I'm gonna spend some fuel and move up. So if they made that a book, great. The planetary stuff, it was kind of but the story, like the prologue, amazing. And then as soon as the prologue ended, it was okay, now you're dealing with somebody else's problem. And you're like, but what about they blew up my planet?
It kind of reminds me of what do you call it? Battlestar Galactica. I think it almost feels like that, where it's like something super cool happens for like the first like couple episodes, and also the next thing you're just kind of like in space. It's like, okay.
Yeah,
then,
it was.
When you get to like the second season, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Because that was like they had people on the planet for multiple, they like changed like a set of years. For those that haven't seen Battlestar Galactica, watch it. It's amazing, absolutely fantastic. Probably one of the greatest sci-fi things ever made outside of Star Trek and Star Wars. And probably
Firefly too.
Huh?
As Firefly in that mix too.
Yep. I think those are so. Anyway, I think for that first season again, it's almost like the book was like that, where it's like we're not really sure what we're going with this, and then finally you get to the point where it's like, oh, now I see where they're going, and oh, this is kind of cool again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. With this one though, like the first the entire chapter, which is quite a few hours of play, have nothing to do with the prologue, the entire thing, and so I was just like, I don't care about their problems. My planet got blown up. I want to go do story stuff.
I don't know if the story's being changed. I should ask that question.
No, the story's not. I don't see how the story could change. I mean, they'd have to rewrite the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think they are.
I don't think that's going to change. They're just doing a lot of. I think that what they're doing is very similar to Isofarian. They listened to the community and what the community really enjoyed about the game, what they didn't enjoy about the game. They went back and said, "We're going to do a new printing of the game. Let's try to see if there's a way that we can incorporate some of the things the community has done." Again, fully play tested game. When I played it, it was great. I loved it.
Ship combat was fantastic.
It's getting better too, because now the characters
get bad, and I haven't had a chance to because there's just so many other games. This is you make that list and you're like, oh, I'm super excited to get back to this game, and then right as it's getting towards the top, like 3 other games fall into your lap and go.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's
no, the ship combat's getting better because those ships you get are all going to be unique now. So out of the gate.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. Sadly, as a solo gamer, the story also means something for me, and that's where it's gonna.
I think the story's fine for me.
For me, it didn't work, but I'm gonna hang on for Mythwind. Mythwind is the one I'm hoping for them now.
What's going on with the ships?
No, drones.
Unique.
There's gonna be drones too, if that's what you're asking.
Yes, that's right.
The drones, but the ships are gonna have unique movements now. So.
Oh, that's cool.
Cool.
Jonathan's got a good point.
Oh, Tainted Grail?
Yep, same type of deal. Listen to the community, going back, restructuring it. It's a different game, but they're taking cues from what the community has been doing with the game and are creating things in the game that are going to be able to appease a lot of what the people saw were flaws in the game. Again, different games. So now this could be a second edition, same theme. new, but like
New mechanics.
new the mechanics remain the same, but some of it's changed to appease. I don't know. So then maybe a 1.5.
Kind of. So we've been talking about we got more games we can bring up and talk about comparisons,
We've been
but I think we've got a lot of comparisons. I want to transition to the pros and cons from a general sense. I think.
Okay.
Like, because oftentimes when I see second editions come out, the immediate reaction I see from general public is usually negative, I would say. And negative to the sense that, like, well, am I a playtester? Because I bought the first edition. I see comments like that quite a bit.
Like, oh, I'm not going to play this game now that I know there's a 1.5 coming out. I'll wait for that to hit.
That as well. That's correct. Or, well, great, now my first edition's not good because there's a second edition out. And if the second edition isn't better, because why make a second edition in the first place, then why should I play an inferior product, right?
Yes.
So there's like I see comments or thoughts like these pop up all the time when second editions come out, right? And I think there's a lot of factors to that. So one thing that I'll say is, if someone knows how to make a product better and they have the means to do so, then that's a good thing. Like, making the product better is a good thing. I'll say that straight up, right? Easy. Now, I will also say, along the similar lines, this is where it gets into the gray, is if you didn't put forth the effort, right, to playtest the game enough to capture some of these big issues before putting it out, then that's a problem. I would say that was true back in the day, early in the hobby. Nowadays, I'm no longer convinced. I think there's a lot of playtests going on. Now, there's exceptions, but I think generally there's a lot of playtests going on, capturing a lot of stuff. But you're still going to see second editions and other stuff, because ultimately, when defining your playtest groups, you've got different consumer groups, and you try to capture enough playtests within that group, so you have good representation of what your consumer base is going to be. It is a confidence, right? You have some level of confidence interval when comparing these data sets. You won't ever get to the actual thing until the product's out there. So there's always going to be some tweaks and things you catch, unfortunately, when it's out in the public. And so how do you respond to that appropriately? I would say upgrade packs is by far the best way to do it.
Yeah.
I think Gloomhaven, right? Gloomhaven had a thing coming out where they didn't have an upgrade pack for Gloomhaven 2nd edition, and that kind of had a lot of people upset about that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think upgrade packs are fantastic. A lot of times, one thing I like about the upgrade packs is, now that this gets in the hands, it's almost like you can have a larger poll, like you said, a larger consumer size to figure out what, I shouldn't say what works and what doesn't. Like, I'm going to use a couple of games that we've maybe brought up or not brought up to kind of show this. When you have big games like this, like ISO Fairing Guard, Stars for Cars, they're big games. It's not like a Euro that usually is super crunchy and it's got these really fine like mechanics. There's only a certain amount of things to do, like things like that. This is like, there's a lot of variables in these kind of games, like different upgrades, different ship maneuvers, different things that you can put all over the place, and trying to find, of course, so there's a lot of people looking for the most optimal. Another game I want to bring up is this one right behind me here, Madara. Madara had a huge upgrade kit to the point where they actually reprinted every card. And the reason they did that is they were finding, now that it's in the hands of so many people and having such a large size to pull from, that they're seeing only certain amounts of the game being used. This happened to Kingdom Death too. They found that a certain monster wasn't really being hunted because the advantage to hunting that wasn't as good as hunting another animal. So they realigned some of the stuff from that other animal, make them pretty equal in what you can get out of them, depending on how you want to build out your civilization, your characters. Similar to Madara, they were finding certain parts of the certain skills were better than some of the ones that they put in there. And after seeing the larger size being able to use these, they found that the certain skills are being used. They went back, tweaked them all so that almost all of them have a place in the game now. You know what I mean? So like, I think so then that's just a couple games out there. And I think that's one really good way to use an upgrade kit, is to be able to hopefully pull some of that stuff back in line. Because I would hate to be playing a game and always think I have to play a certain way, and never have a chance to play another way because they didn't go back and redesign some of the cards to make them fit in with them. And sadly, when you're talking about playtest groups, there's only that's a small pocket.
That's the thing that I was going to lead into, because I saw some comments coming across and I want to address those too.
Oh, what?
When not in talking about like
Did I do
1.5
something right or
packs and all
wrong?
that. No, you're good. You're good.
Okay, I'm
You're
good.
I think one of the things that comes up for me is, like Bairnt was saying, when you play test, you're not play testing the world. You're play testing a controlled group. And I say controlled group because usually it's people you know. And those people play your game, and they play your game often enough that they become like you. You know, at first they give a lot of feedback, and then after that they're like, yeah, this feels good. Okay, this feels good. Okay, this feels good. But it's still that same controlled group of people. When you release a game, it goes out into the wild, right?
Mhm.
And more people play it who have different views of board gaming than your control group, and find the things that they don't like or the things that are coming up for them. So therefore it sits in that realm of, okay, well, oh shoot, we didn't catch that. Oh man, I didn't think about, the same thing, that the feedback that you're getting from your testers who've played 500 some odd hours of your game, or more. Then now someone else with a completely different gameplay style, or a different idea, will come in and be like, oh, they should have done this instead. The community says, hey, that makes sense. And that's the same thing the dev's saying. Oh man, I didn't think of that.
Mm-hmm.
It would make life easier. It would make things so much simpler. I could put out a upgrade pack that will incorporate that feedback plus X amount of things, maybe some misprints, because no one is perfect. So maybe some misspellings, maybe some cards that are OP or some cards that are undervalued in this pack, and put this out. And I think what ends up happening when they do that is, I see Dr. Hahn's statement of like, I don't like 1.5 because I don't play the game. They always seem to announce the update like weeks after it delivers. I think it's because it gets in the hands of people who play a 500 plus hour game, and like, they stay up 24 hours and play it straight through, and they see the thing that they missed. So when they report on that stuff, it's like, oh man, shoot, all right, well, let me start the list and putting out some items that could be coming up as an upgrade pack. I don't, by and large, I'm not going to say that this is for everybody, because some people do practice that sleazy mechanic, but by and large, I think that a lot of developers create the upgrade pack because of those things, and saying, let's get this out so we can get people the experience that we want them to have. And so they release those packs. It's not because they're saying, they could sit there on this game and wait 6 months and still never find us until they release it. I think that's the thing. It's like, I think there's got to be a little bit of grace there in terms of,
Yeah,
Definitely
especially if it's something like you're talking about, where it's just like just small misses. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe like what are you calling miss, like basically somebody not spelling things right, like me, or like finding that certain cards just weren't aligning where they're hoping to in the grand scheme of things here and
but
there.
they were aligning, in play testing.
Right, because
It seemed to be gelling, but when we got
right,
into a new scenario,
right. All of a
that
sudden, because when I play it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get those short swords because I always play the short swords. Those are my favorite. But then all of a sudden, it gets to communities, and the community's like, short swords suck. I'd rather use these guitars that are way better. Oh my gosh. Well, why didn't catch that during, like you're saying, it was a small group that was really interested in that type of thing. And I think of like, I'm again thinking about Madara and Kingdom Death and stuff. They're just so big that it's hard to factor in all these variables of what's going to happen. So once you get it in the hands of, like you said, the world, all of a sudden you got a playtest group of 2 billion. All of a
yeah.
sudden you've got these, you're seeing like an alignment of what works and what doesn't. And I think I'm actually very excited when they do these kind of things, putting in not like these upgrade packs. And for certain games, like for example, Madara's, the upgrade pack, I think if anything, I think you got it for free if you backed the original thing, or you paid like minimal shipping at the time, because that was
Yeah.
back when shipping was really cheap still for it. And I'm totally fine with that, because I'd rather have a game that is more balanced for what I'm hoping and the experience that they're hoping for when they originally made the game.
Yeah, and the odd thing about it is, so here's where I gotta get it on the players here, right? I gotta get it on them because it's so they've tweaked this game. They've done a ton of play tests in a controlled group, right? It's always going to be a controlled group, and they've done a ton of play tests in a controlled group, and then they hit the Kickstarter, and some of them say, all right, the Kickstarter's begun. I've got about a month of funding and I have to stay up forever. But here's a TTS mod who that cuts off 70% of the community from trying it out anyway, because it's digital. But they put out a TTS mod, and during those TTS mods, they're garnering feedback. They're saying, play it, try it out, try it out, try it out. And while we say, I don't like digital games, I don't like green eggs and ham, then that gives you your option to get that feedback in before they release the game of what you found. So no one, so a large group of a large swath of the community doesn't touch that because it's digital. So they get in some feedback, or a little bit more of a group that says, okay, make these changes. They make those slight changes and then release the game. And when it releases at large and people try it out, they see the issues and they report it back. So it is very difficult. All that to say, it's if you want the game to be released as pristine as possible or in a good fashion, when the Kickstarter comes out, if there should be, in this day and age, there should be some type of mod so that you could try it out. But if there is, give it a shot, right? I understand you don't like digital, I get it, but give it a shot so you can see the mechanics and report that stuff back so that they can release a solid product that you would enjoy. Anyway.
No, I think that's a great thing. I do like Snow's comments here. I have old editions and I love them. And we actually talked about this one off camera. Snow, we talked about the Almighty Mark and Arcana. Her and I have a alignment in this game. We love this game, and there's 3 editions of this game. But I mean, the difference between 2 and 3 isn't that much that it's not going to be playable, and the second edition isn't playable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I totally get this. Sometimes the older versions are just fine. You don't need to get the newer version. You're totally fine with the second edition. So I mean, that's another thing you got to think of. Again, going back to Arkham, second edition for some people is fine. They're never going to own 3. They don't want third edition. They're fine with second edition.
Yeah. Yep.
So I mean, not all the time is it important to get the new edition.
I do want to jump in on your comments earlier, Derek, about the playtesting a little bit, because there's a lot of playtesting done with a control group, because that always happens. It has to be that way, I guess, to get enough playtests in to be. But I also think it's really important to do blind playtesting. I don't think you can survive on only a control group of playtesting.
Blind playtesting is hard to initiate. It's hard to initiate because when you talk about blind testing, when we talk about that, well, you're talking about. So go ahead and define blind testing.
Yeah. So what it means is it's one removed from you administering the playtest, right?
Right.
So, and what I mean by that is having it. Well, I guess blind playtesting is very useful. But
it is. It's super useful, but hard to pull off.
It is hard to pull off, exactly.
And that's the reason why it doesn't happen all the time.
TTS is good for that, honestly.
Yes.
Because if you can have people play your game, and if you can just be an observer, don't interact, just like, hey, you play the game, record what you have, or let me watch what you're doing, right? And then that way you're removed from it, right? That could not technically be blind playtesting, but it's close.
TTS's purpose is for blind testing. That's its sole avenue, right? My problem though is that, like I was saying before, as soon as you say it's on TTS, 70% of the community is like, no, thank you. I don't want to play anything digital. I want tactile feel to my games. So your blind test is not as all encompassing as you'd hope.
Correct.
I mean, you'll get great feedback, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be. I don't think it will. when you release your game, that's like your blind test.
Also, I think if you do tabletop simulators during Kickstarter, like Kanji's saying, and you do try it, and there are some things that don't align with you, there is a button, I'm sure, in there that does send an email to that creator or that group, and you should definitely do it, because sometimes I've done a blind test, like you're saying, on these tabletop simulator games, and after I get done playing, I'm like, "Wow, this game's garbage. I don't think there's anything good about this game." And then all of a sudden, Steve's talking to me about it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I did like those 4 things wrong. I misunderstood the rules about it. Well, let's try this again. Oh my gosh, this game is actually really good." So it's like, if I would not have had his help, I would have not even backed it. But again, I did not take the initiative of emailing the person and saying, "Hey, just a heads up, I didn't like this and this," because he would have probably emailed me right back, said, "That's not how it works. If you read the rules in this part, this is how it works." I've been like, "Oh, now let me go back and try it again." You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
make sure that if you are trying it through a blind test, like he's saying, and you don't like something, let them know. Don't just
Yeah.
kind of go, "Oh, okay, no, I'm done."
Yeah. I don't think I've run into, well,
What I didn't
who
understand
talks
a
to
rule
me,
you gave
but
me
I
that
haven't
never
run
happened.
into I don't think I've never run into a dev yet who's been like, I don't care for feedback.
Right.
This is my game.
Exactly.
They're all
100%.
Yeah, all of them have been, oh, you didn't like that? This is what I was going for.
Yep.
But it makes sense why you don't. And then sometimes they'll say, well, that'll break the core of the game that I'm trying to build, so I probably won't incorporate that, but they're listening.
Yeah.
So
I've
So
never
Mike,
not got a response.
yeah.
so Mike has a
I'm
really
like,
good comment here that's I think is worth addressing. It says, "I have a shelf full of games I want to play. I'm not interested in testing a game I might buy on a platform I don't like. They should have a giveaway after TTS testing, and they get more interaction."
That's hard, Mike. I'll push back on that. And I'll say that I understand that you don't want to play a game on TTS. I get it. I agree.
Yep.
I'm not gonna knock you for that. But you're running a cycle here, because if you're like, I don't want to play test that, I want your game to be perfect when I get it, then you're not going to get a perfect game, and we're going to get into the cycles of 1.5 seconds editions, third editions, that type of thing.
It's
And you don't have to play test the game. I'm not saying like,
right.
hey, every person in the community go test it. For people who are like, I don't want to play test your game, I just want you to worry about that enough, and when you release the game, I enjoy it, because like Mike says, I've got a shelf full of games that I can play instead of yours. So make it make it worth it. Oh, Yogi.
Nice,
So, and interestingly enough, I am actually on the camp of I am on not kanji camp. I am a not kanji camp.
Okay.
I have no problem not helping out with the tabletop simulator, because I don't like tabletop simulator very much,
Right.
and I don't mind Kickstarter the game, and when I get it, I go, it's really not that great. Oh, they're putting a 1 point, or they didn't get these things right. Oh, they're putting 1.5 out. Perfect. I can wait for that. That's fantastic. I'm more on a camp of that thing than I am. I'm gonna I'm gonna blind test the game, and that I might back. Most of the time, I'll probably do anyway. And so that's the other thing. So this is just me. This is me.
Yeah.
I have a couple games that I could play while I'm waiting for the 1.5 that I'm finding out about is happening.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, for example, when Madara came out, I did the whole first like 4 or 5 missions or something at the beginning. And they did a really unique thing. They dropped this game, and the day they dropped it, they announced the 1.5. Right.
Yeah.
And
I think that's what somebody else was saying. Like that.
and
That
so
was
what I
weird.
did is I just played the first 4 scenarios to know if I was going to enjoy this game. Knew I was going to enjoy it because it was absolutely phenomenal. And I'm like, you know what? I've got Kingdom Death. Pick one, right? And so I'm okay. I can wait for that to fully go through. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
to me, I would rather have the 1.5 update than having to go on Tabletop Simulator and take some time to try to deal with it. I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff, aren't I?
Oh, Robin's giving me crap.
Of course she is.
But
Does
to
1.5
Mike's,
need
to
another
Mike's
large box is delivered to the front step? Nope, smaller package.
so to Mike's point, though, I mean, all things being equal, he is not wrong. The responsibility to have their game properly tested falls on the developer. I won't even say company, the developer, and the willingness or and the community's willingness or lack thereof to help isn't relevant. You're right.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna disagree that point.
Yep.
I think you're absolutely right. If I'm building a game, it is on me to make sure that I am thoroughly testing that game. Yes, 100%, top marks. I think when that game gets released and it's not to the community's expectation, or it falls flat of that expectation, then that's on me to deal with the ramifications of that. What would be cool is that if I'm releasing a game and the community that I love so much is willing to help me make my game better. So I think that that's my whole purpose of saying that stuff, right? All things being equal, Mike, you're right. You have zero responsibility and accountability when it comes to somebody else creating a game. You can choose to not partake and do not feel bad about it. Please don't ever feel bad about that. That is your choice. I think it's just more, I want, if I make a game, if I choose to make a game, like how I do my homebrews and stuff, when I put it out there, my hope is that when I say, hey, I need some help building this, or ask for that, my hope is that there would be some feedback to, hey, yeah, I'll give it a shot. But if there's no feedback or people tell me to kick rocks, I full well need to be able to be in that position to accept that as well and say, okay, well, then this will just be me. I will play test it and get it right. So I don't disagree with what you said.
Yeah.
I've never heard kick rocks before.
Yep.
You're gonna tell me to kick rocks.
So all that to just say, I don't want to put this responsibility on the community to make a game better.
Yeah, right.
Mike's right. The responsibility is on the designer.
And even a person that runs a YouTube channel like I do, that is all about making content that for games that I really enjoy and want to play these games I really enjoy, I'm actually more in Mike's boat. I am more of the person that would rather kickstart the game and expect all the stuff to hopefully fall in line when they go through their processes. I don't go and tabletop simulator it a couple times and 3 or 4 times to see like what are things I liked and didn't like about it. I'm one of those people that can window shop when it comes to games.
Yeah.
And that's kind of more what I do.
To jump in what Mike said earlier,
and then I get stuck though with some real duds sometimes.
Yeah, I've
right, like Descent 2nd edition or 3rd edition. I mean, 4th edition. What is it on now?
Mike. I said Mike. Steve, what do you
say? Yeah. So what? To get back to what Mike's saying, because when Mike said like, I've got all these other games, I don't want to jump on TTS to play this game. I feel that all the time, honestly. Now my motivation. So I started doing the co-op corner, which is the news chat. Try to cover the games quickly. Here's what's coming up and stuff like that. There I try each time I do that segment, I try to make sure I have tried some of these games out on Tabletop Simulator so I can tell you guys. My motivation is to help you guys out on that one, right? Because
more of an information broker.
Information broker, yeah, exactly. Like if I could try things out and tell you what my experience about it, and it helps you make a decision whether to follow or whatever on any of these games, I'm happy about that to help out. Yeah. But I have all these other, I got these prototypes I have to prep, all these other videos I have to do, and that's taken away from that, right? And so like it's a really tough tough decision on how to balance it. And like for me, I would love to play test some games. I would love to play test so many other games, but when doing content, I just don't have the time. What it comes down to, I know I'm a bad playtester because of these reasons. It's not because of a lack of willingness. It's literally just prioritization and time constraints, right?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so I totally get Mike from that standpoint, right? And it's not on the players to make time to help them out, but it's on, like we said earlier, the company or devs time to seek out people who have that capability to help out in that sense.
Yeah. Yep. Correct.
But yeah. No, I'm happy you like that, G Golly. We'll keep going. One coming next week, though. So
yeah. It,
For Bairnt Winter Shopping List. Yes, Bairnt joined me in the last when I playtested a few things. So
yeah,
Yes, I did, and one was good and one was bad.
Wilderness
yeah.
was bad.
For me,
Do not.
I think personally, if a Kickstarter doesn't have a TTS mod to try the game out, I pass on it. Like that's my brain
It
now.
helps so much
Yeah.
in a lot of different ways, right? And
Yeah,
but it's
it's
and honestly, it's interesting working with all these companies and publishers out there, and there's so many great people in the community. Honestly, like just recently, we've all been covering Rogue Angels. Emil, he's amazing on how he's been supporting the game and he's supporting us too. Like, hey, we're gonna send you unique copy of the game so everyone has unique content to share. That's amazing. I love that. Um,
Nailed it.
putting together those prototypes is not cheap or easy to do, right? So that's awesome. And honestly, the public and us, we prefer playing with physical stuff. On the flip side, the TTS side, the nice thing about that is because it's so early in development, generally things can tweak and change. I might have an old rulebook, an old component in that prototype, right?
yeah.
With
There's
TTS,
some,
that can be updated on the fly, and then you're good to go. You don't have to worry about it. So
yeah.
there's some pros and cons each way.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'd say, and he does an amazing job when he's one of these developers that, as he'll like reach out to you, like, hey, how have you been? Have you been enjoying it? Is there things I should look? Is there anything you see that I should know about? Like things like that. Like he's not waiting for you to get back to him. He actually like emails you and kind of says like, hey, you've had the tabletop or you've had the mod for a while. Have you had anything you should know about? If you hadn't had a chance to try it, that's totally fine. I'm just wanting to know if there's anything you've seen or stuff like that. I thought that was really cool. Then and he's keeps adding stuff to the tabletop simulator mod as well. Like you're saying, not only upgrade, like, hey, this component's changed, like he's adding scenarios as he's building this. Like he's got this big huge late framework ready to go, but he's adding stuff as he goes. Madara's doing the same thing on their tabletop simulator. They're like keep adding stuff to it as they're going, so then you can try the stuff out before you get it if you want to.
Yeah. Oh, hey Eric.
Hey, awesome. Thanks for joining in. So this is another
Eric's
published
got
perspective.
Yeah.
With Ice of Aaron, we spent 4 years playtesting both in-house and multiple blind playtesting groups, so hence what we were talking about earlier. Providing loads of feedback and input over that time. Even with dozens of people working on that perfect balance, including backers, you can have things that some may not enjoy with its release worldwide. 100 people versus thousands is a whole other thing, exactly, right? You try to find a sample that represents your larger audience, but you will never get accurate on that. It's always some level of confidence, right, between what's representative of the full group. So when a publisher listens to that community after the game is printed and decides to adjust their designs to make the game better or more enjoyable for all, it's better for both the game and the players. I agree completely. If you take that feedback and you're capable of making the game better, it's only a good thing.
Yep.
My opinion. Only good thing.
Yep.
Ice of Aaron will definitely be a 1.5 and not 2.0, and I'm extremely excited about the changes because it's now a project that the community has had a hand in making even better, which is true. Yep. More people enjoy it, and as I've always said, if even a small amount of people get joy from playing this game, then you've done our job well. Well said.
I think he kind of sums up what we've been talking
Well
about
said.
this whole time, which is really nice.
I have a question for both of you
Okay.
around this stuff.
Oh,
right?
good. I think
I'm curious from a content creator's perspective.
Oh my gosh, it's so passive.
So I'm asking. I have a question for the content creators in the room, if that's possible.
Oh, that's one. Steve's here.
When you play a game and there is a mechanic, let's just say 1.0 comes out, and you play a game and there is a mechanic that is not that great, probably not well ingrained, right? These are the things that lead to a 1.5 that comes up. When you play these games and they have those things, do you homebrew your game? And do you homebrew your game playing it as a content creator as you record?
Absolutely not.
So you play it as rules
as
as
written,
written all
100%.
time.
I don't ever
Okay.
house rule. Not only that, if you notice on my playthroughs, I almost never use upgraded components either. I always use exactly what is provided in the box so people can see exactly what you do.
I'm talking. Think of this as not a okay. This is an unboxing, and then this is my first playthrough. I'm
Yeah,
talking about further. So no matter what, if you're going to stream it, it will always be rules as written, no upgrades.
correct.
Okay.
Unless the designer themselves have come out with it. Because I want people to know what they're getting. I don't want them to be I don't want them to be like, okay, so I'm gonna roll these dice and have to explain why I'm doing it differently.
Okay. All right. Steve, what
That's
So
about
just
you?
me. I mean, if I'm playing it outside of content creation where I'm not recording it, I would be more than happy to try out a few things if people are interested in trying it.
Okay.
Actually, the funny thing is, I know for a fact that Colin has already asked me that when we do our playthrough of what are we doing? What are we doing, Steve? What's the next thing
Kinfire.
I'm doing? Thank you. Kinfire. He wants to adjust the way the bag works
No, I
for
agree.
the initiative because he's not a fan of it. And I told him I would like to do at least one live stream with it the way it's supposed to be, and then explain why we're going to change it a little bit because he's adamant about wanting to switch that up because he's not a fan of how they do it. And I totally get it. And if anybody's seen the way Kinfire works, that is the one polarizing factor of that game, 100% polarizing.
Yep.
And so if you can show different ways of doing the bag, maybe if that content gets out there, maybe the publisher will want to maybe go back for a 1.5 reprint and adjust and give some options to do it. So, but if I'm normally, I don't do large playthroughs except for like Kingdom Death. Sure, I don't think I'd ever change that because really that game
The
is
rules, the mechanics are solid. Yeah, yeah.
right. Or the same with Madara. I didn't until it. I like I said for that one, I put it on hold and waited for 1.5. When 1.5 came out, I again started playing it again using rules as written in new edition. Kind
Okay,
of thing.
okay.
So I do it that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So Steve, what about you?
Steve
I'm
Holmes
I'm
knows
different than Bairnt.
everything.
I'm different than Bairnt on this front. So
100% different.
so on the first playthroughs of games, I will always do rules as written. For sure. For
Rules
the
is
same
guessed.
reasons that Baron has already stated, I want to
Uh-huh.
make sure it's a clear picture to people who are getting the game that
Yep.
this is what you get in the box. This is how it
Uh-huh.
plays out of the box. This is the experience you should expect. Completely
Mhm.
agree with that. However, I am a fan of house rules. I house rule a lot, and it helps me to understand what's important in the game and how the game actually works. It helps me with my reviews, right? I don't
Mhm.
review games based on house rules. I review the games based on rules as written, but the house rules help me understand what is important in the game to highlight that for viewers. Okay, so that said, now oftentimes with these house rules, I have no problem coming back at a later time, and most importantly, clearly stating in the video I'm playing with this house rule, right? Everything else the rules are written. This rule is a house rule. Be aware of that. And when we get to that point in the video, I will always clearly state that this is different. But that's normally much later after the fact of the game coming out or something like that. It's not part of the same series generally. So I'm a
And
little
I
different.
don't.
I'm okay with house rules because here's another. Let me ties back to 1.5 and the second edition discussion. There are rules in games that are core to the experience. There are also rules in games that are arbitrary. I say arbitrary in that I could have picked this value to be a 3 or 4, right, on this card. It doesn't really matter from a balance perspective. Yeah, it changes the balance, but like in some cases, you just have to pick a number or you have to pick a rule, right? It doesn't have a major impact to how the rest of the game functions. Now, when you pull this out to the wide audience, I chose that value to be a 3, but the public's telling me they want it to be a 4. Now I'm going to do second edition, make that a 4, right? And it's really down to a preference issue on that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So go
For me,
ahead.
I fall in your camp, Steve. But my thing is, I think I do the same thing where I do play rules as written on a first couple playthroughs. But if I find the enjoyment weaning because of a mechanic, I would rather like house rule it to make the game continuable, playable, and a more enjoyment for me than saying I played this house rule. This is the rules as written. This game is boring. Sell, right?
Yeah.
So it's for me. I think I fall into your camp as well, and I also make sure you have to make sure that you state that this is a house rule. That's just a given.
Yep.
I've done that for a couple things. I even do it for my favorite game, Gloomy Kill 4.
Mhm.
I house rule it because to me the 5-6 success mechanic is antiquated. I think it's an antiquated mechanic that is no longer being used by newer game designers, but is still part of older games. And so to make that more digestible for me, I'll just speak from my perspective, is I just made forced partial successes. I do it with Eldritch Horror as well. It's a house rule, but to me, it gets past the thing that kind of frustrates me about the game and into the things that I really love about the game.
I don't think sometimes I think a lot of it comes from the fact that there might be games that I don't play enough that need to house rule them. Do you know what I mean? Like you play Gloom of Killforth like it's going out of style, right? So to continue your enjoyment, you need to do a small house rule. Totally get it. I think I don't really. I'm trying to. I mean, here's one Bard song. I'll play this again, no problem. Will I house rule it? Yes, because I don't want to have to dungeon crawl through this thing like crazy. I'd rather just get the experience of the story in this game. In order to do that, I would have to house rule this game. So does that mean it's coming back channel? Sure, it can come back to the channel, and I would have to say I'm house ruling it. But I think more often than not, I don't. And I think it's because I like to keep the game pure. Even when I'm doing I just started Kingdom Death Monster. It is going to be released on Sunday, the new one. And I am using the pieces of paper from the game, even though I could have printed off some cool things that other people may have designed. I'm using what Poots put in that box because I want people to see that this is what you have. I mean, you should see my old one. Did you ever watch my old one? I went through all 41 episodes of that using the papers they gave from that. Any better ones to use on the internet. And I think I have like 4 pieces of paper left in that box.
Oh boy.
I had 50 when it started. So
yeah. For Mike's response to that, Mike, it's different, and I'll say it's different because this is the reason why when I asked the question at large to the community, you're right, it's your game, do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
When it comes to content creation, it's different.
It is different.
It's so different because I can say I want to. Let's just say, and since Eric's in the chat, Eric, I'm just going to use you as an example. Let's say the game delivers. And it is Isofarian Guard, and you are playing Isofarian Guard. You're prepping for your stream and playing Isofarian Guard, and you're like, oh, I don't like this mechanic. You can't say I'm going to homebrew that and then go live because you want to. This is where Bairnt is correct. You want to present the game to the community as the designer intended as a content creator. Mm-hmm. After you play a few games, this is where Steve comes in if it's not working, then say, I didn't like this. Here's the reason why I didn't like this. Here's the reason why I'm going to homebrew it. It is a homebrew that I did, ... And then you shift it. But I think starting off a stream homebrewing the game, it's different. That's why I was like, yes, it's my game. Yes, I can shift it however I want. But when it comes to content creator, it's not that simple.
I think you're also saying another word that makes a lot more sense in the difference between how you and I do these things when it comes to house ruling. You're saying the word stream. I'm saying the word record. I also record more videos. And so I think recording them, it makes it a lot harder to really add these homebrews to it, as opposed to streaming, where as you're streaming, you can explain the homebrews. And people come in like I did one time going like, what do you mean half successes? And you're like, oh, I'm doing what I do for this game is I use 4s for half success. You can say that again as you're playing it, where if I'm setting up a game, like if I do video on demand, I can guarantee, I mean, I've even talked to Colin about this. I was talking about like maybe changing my intro up, and he goes, I've never watched your intro like in the last like 2 years, dude. I just print this, I just go to the next, like I go to the gameplay button that you have. Well, I've already said I plan to homebrew some stuff during the setup, and then I go to let's go right to the gameplay. I'm going to get messages say like, hey, did you know that you're not supposed to get success?
Yeah, I still get that too. I still get that too, even with live streaming. I still get that as well. At least with live
streaming, you have more of a chance. And I know video recording, I could probably say that every time I roll the die, like, oh, just heads up, that 4 is going to be. That would get, people don't need to hear that. So I think it's also a little different when you're live streaming versus when you're actually recording video. So like if I'm recording Kingdom Death Monster, which I'm going to be, I record the whole thing because I know Colin will never play it with me live. So I'm going to continue on. I'm going to go completely by rules as written the entire way through it because it's just easier. So everybody has the same base to to
Yeah.
know what's going on. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that might be. I don't know if that makes a difference or
That's
not.
well, I think it does. I think it does from a when we talk about home brewing a game. If you play a big game, let's just say Sword and Sorcery, Kingdom Death Monster, any of those 5 billion plus
Myth, for
hour
example.
playtime games, starting the series, playing the series, and then home brewing halfway in your series is very jarring because
Yeah.
it shifts stuff. So it's probably not feasible from that perspective. But if you have one-shot games that you play, for me, Gloomy Killforth is a one-time. You
Yeah.
sit down, you play it, and you're done.
Done.
Eldritch Horrors, you sit down, you play it, and you're done. And so for those, if you I think those are more they applicable for the homebrew segments than a big old huge dungeon crawl.
Oh, Robert, I do not get them. I do not remember all the rules.
This might be a good chat. This might be a good chat.
There's a
Robert,
lovely.
have you ever watched any of my playthroughs?
There's a lovely button. There's a wonderful button on my editing software called subtitle, and you might see a few of those in my videos because half the time I was just telling these guys when I did my Kingdom Death playthrough, the very first hit location card I drew, I did wrong, and so it's like Subtitle City just went right into the whole video. I did this wrong.
That might be a good chat for next week, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw something at you, Derek.
Okay.
Tying it because I think we're a little bit off topic, but I'm gonna bring it back.
Oh, sorry.
On topic with this. No, this is good. So now talking about second editions. Now I have when I play the Zombicide, I have first edition. But I play with the second edition rules. I have a few of the second edition stuff, but not all of it. So if I combine the first edition and second edition stuff together, is that a homebrew?
Yes. Yes, it is.
So, what?
The reason why I say yes, it is because
you're totally out of the box.
Well, when you first edition came with some rules. Second edition comes with a completely different set of rules.
Yes, but I play with the
second edition
rules.
Is if you mix first with second, you're not playing second edition's rules as written.
I'm playing with first edition components.
Right.
With the second edition rules.
Are you talking about just like a mini switch, then using a standee? Then yes,
no.
Well,
the minis, or whatever. But like
the character boards from the first one, but use the second edition rules.
I think that if you are changing rules, then you are changing editions, or you're homebrewing. If you're not changing rules and you're just changing aesthetic, that doesn't matter.
Okay, that's what I was asking for. Okay.
Yeah. If you're just changing,
then that would be second edition with the old stuff, which they have rules in there and how to play them. So I do that, but okay, I know I do have to wrap this up because I gotta stop in time. We're a little over here anyway. So I kind of want to do a quick recap on second edition stuff. So, yays and nays. I think we're settling on mostly yay for second edition stuff.
Yays of what? What's the question?
Or second edition's good. Do you generally like them?
I'm meh.
I like him if there's upgrade packs.
Okay.
If there's not upgrade pack, that drives me nuts.
I say meh only because sometimes they're very well done and they're wonderful and they're the best things in sliced bread, and sometimes they change so much that the game is no longer enjoyable. For example, Descent second edition, great. Descent third edition, or Legends of the Dark, or whatever they want to call it.
I would like. Okay, so here's the deal.
I'm middle of the road.
Okay, second edition for example, Zombicide. That's what's this next week? Third edition versus fourth. That's right. So second edition, when it comes to something like Zombicide, sure, totally fine. They're basically updating their game to the standards of the market.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
If you're going to do Arkham Horror third edition versus second edition, that's a different game.
Yes.
So now it's not even an addition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're doing something like a 1.5, which I think is going to be your next question. 1.5, yes or no? Upgrade packs, is that good? I'm totally on board with upgrade packs. So that means they've taken the advice. If they've taken the advice of the community and are working to try to get a game that is more enjoyable to more people, then yes, 100% enjoy that. What is we going with now? Better doesn't always mean better for every detail. Yes, exactly. Can't read past the first 5 words, Bairnt's awesome. So there you go. I wrapped it up for you, Steve. How you like
Yeah,
it?
no, I think that's the main thing with me. If there's an upgrade pack, that means it's mostly the same game with feedback taken back. That makes the game better. I like that a lot.
Yes.
If it's a whole new edition, that tends to be
hit
a
or
different
miss.
game, and that tends to be the maybe category for me.
Yeah,
as being
yeah,
good.
I agree with. I'll agree with that.
I'm on board with that.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Wrap it
Bairnt, how about you start it off with wrapping up in the air and telling us what you got coming up on your channel?
That's Jared Allen. He used to be my favorite guy. He's back to quarterback. You go like that. He's awesome. Oh, talk about a guy who like really had made it in the world. This guy was amazing. He decided to announce his retirement by riding off in the sunset on a horse. That was amazing. All right. Anyway, what have I got coming up? Kingdom Death Monster drops on Sunday. Kinfire drops probably tomorrow. Wait, that's Sunday too, isn't it?
Yep.
So maybe today or
Sure.
Sunday.
Kingdom Death.
Yep, we're doing Kingdom Death. All right. And then I've got maybe painting. I don't know. I've got Resident Evil I've got to learn. And Feast for Odin is coming before the beginning of the football season because that was the bet I made with Bill. Commissioned miniature painter Bill. He's amazing, by the way. If you're interested in getting miniature painted, go check him out. I bet that the Vikings would beat the Eagles. They did not, so he got to choose a game that I had to play. Colin heavily swayed him.
I hear Feast for Odin's fun.
We'll find out. So that's all coming. But I do have Kingdom Death recorded and ready to go. But Kinfire's the third mission in Kingfire is recorded, ready to go. And then Colin and I are going to start playing Kinfire live on Wednesday.
On Wednesday?
Wednesday!
Cool.
I think that's what I got coming, don't I?
Cool.
Yes.
What about you, Derek? What you got?
Today I will be painting minis with Brian after this at noon. Then Sunday, Arkham Horror LCG, Kate, Cynthia, and I are starting Path to Carcosa. Kate and I have played it, so Cynthia will be leading the charge. And then, depending on the timing of Sunday, I may sneak in a game of Kanji Learns Marvel Champions. That's right. That's our new series of me playing Marvel Champions, learning it. So don't go in there being like, oh, he's going to get all the rules right. No, he's not. He's going to fail horribly. Then Monday, more Marvel Champions. Kanji Learns Marvel Champions. Tuesday, Isofarian Guard. Thursday, Rogue Angels. So Pac-Man's coming back over, and we're going to continue playing Rogue Angels. By that time, Isofarian Guard and Rogue Angels campaigns will be in full swing. Then Saturday co-op chat and sleep.
That's a lot.
Yeah,
So-
you're exactly right. Yes, it's my red paint. For those of you that missed my painting stream last week, my son tried to use the paint pots for the first time, and he's never used the droppers. So he took my Blood Angels red. He goes, "I'm going to use Blood Angel red on my beholder." I'm like, "That's great." I look over as I see him pouring it into these things. So and also the next thing I know, he filled this entire thing with Blood Angel red. I'm like, no! Okay, that's great.
He's
So
learning.
I have to go buy a new one. And I should have prepped him on how to use those before.
Yeah, Lane. Thanks. I'm glad I'm glad you enjoyed and people are enjoying the series. But it's more the thing of when I play this game, I'm not playing it like a pro. There are other people who play this game great. This is me learning how to be good at it, going from 0 to hero.
Yep.
0 to hero.
All right, that's me. What about you, Steve?
Hey, Eli. Nice to see you here. Yeah, actually, I'm not certain what I'm going to do next week yet. So Monday, I'm leaning towards Rogue Angels because I think that's what people want to see. Let me know if you guys want. It's either that or maybe do another Kinfire. One of the two. Alternative to those, I'll do complete new games. I got a lot of new games still in the queue to cover.
Yes, I do too. I'm looking at it.
A lot of stuff.
My
Yeah,
Gen
there's a
Con
lot of
haul.
unboxings last week.
Yeah. So, but all that stuff can come out regardless, or I'll say irregardless to drive Derrick nuts. he's done. Just kidding. And co-op corner will be Wednesday, so joining that for some news. So which we will definitely be mentioning Rogue Angels and Knights of Faron during that one. Plenty of other stuff as well. And co-op, I think they're gonna be doing Marvel Champions on Friday. I know they were supposed to do it last week, but life happens. And then co-op chat next week Saturday, which I think it would be kind of fun to do the how to keep rules straight question. That could be kind of fun.
Love it.
Oh, yeah. I have very little to say on that because I was getting them wrong.
Well, that's okay. I love the Kingdom Death when I was starting to play it, and like I said, that first hit location card, I was like, oh my gosh, I got to knock the rust off of my rules. Oh boy.
So Jan asked an interesting question for you, Steve.
D&D crossover campaign 2nd edition.
Crossover campaign, I'm not sure.
Is there a D&D crossover campaign happening?
Oh, you mean chapter 2?
Yes,
that's what they meant.
Wow.
Okay, sorry.
That one.
So by Steve saying that, I was like, it's not happening.
You know what's going on, Steve?
Yes, we will be doing another more D&D in the future, but not anytime soon.
We're working on timetable.
Chapter 2 is written and ready and waiting for them whenever we can all circle back up. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Scheduling and stuff gets messy, but we will be doing chapter 2. Guaranteed.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, but it's ready. So whenever we
League of Dungeoneers. Bairnt, did you do League of Dungeoneers?
Yes, he did. Bairnt did cover that on
I
his
do
channel.
not have League of Dungeoneers anymore.
But
you covered it on your channel.
Correct.
Yep.
If you're interested in seeing some League of Dungeoneers, I think I did like 4 or 5 videos of it. I did like a whole big couple quests and then ran around the world.
There you go, Robert. Go check out Meet Me at the Table. If you have questions, come ask us. So, cool. Yep. All right. I think it's going to end it for today. Thanks, guys, for joining, and thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see everyone at the next stop. Bye-bye.
Bye. Vote for me.